What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Thursday, April the 30th. A couple of news and notes, and then we're going to get to some Q&A I asked on Facebook and Twitter for some questions for today's episode, and I got 3 or 4 that we will go through. First and foremost, wanted to give everybody an update on Case and Evans. Jay Johnson said no structural damage, nothing really wrong with Case and Evans. He is good to go. He was less committal on whether or not Case and Evans would pitch this weekend. He talked a little bit about the fact that he hadn't thrown, of course, in 5 or 6 days, and they were not sure as of the time of this recording what the plan will be. He indicated that Marcos Paz is in line to start another game. I could certainly see a scenario where William Schmidt goes on Friday, Marcos Paz goes on Saturday, and maybe if Case and Evans is good to go by Sunday, he goes, or maybe they just sit Case and Evans this weekend, or maybe they just sit him the rest of the year. Do you use him for an inning or two somewhere late on one of these games? Does his role shift? That's something that's really up in the air. You know, LSU's obviously on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament. That goes without saying. But, there are some winnable games left, and I'll talk about that in the Q&A. And you'd certainly like to win as many games as you possibly could, to not have this season look quite as bleak as it has turned out to be. Something else I wanted to mention is CBS Sports put out their post-spring practice college football top 25, and they have LSU at number 9. And, LSU would be the 4th highest-ranked SEC team. Texas is 1, Georgia's 4, Texas A&M is right in front of LSU at 8. I like it. I mean, they talked a lot about how LSU's offensive line has come together in the spring. They should have a healthy Sam Leavitt in the fall. Obviously, this, insane transfer portal class will need to come together. But I'm bullish. I know Lane Kiffin has tried to temper some of the expectations. For those wondering, Clemson is ranked 22. Ole Miss is ranked 13th, if that's something you're interested in. LSU is going to have quite a large number of opponents, of course, in the top 25, and LSU is going to have a very difficult schedule. But I think LSU will be a 10, 11, 12-point favorite in the opener against Clemson. And I think if they get off to a good start, if they beat Ole Miss, you could be looking at a 6-1, 7-1 record before they get to that back part of the schedule. We'll have plenty of time, of course, to digest that through the summer and early fall leading up to Labor Day weekend. Hopefully it'll be here before you know it, though, because unfortunately it looks like LSU baseball is going to check out here, before Memorial Day, which is just shocking and disappointing. I did ask for some Q&A, for some questions, rather, for Q&A here, and I got a couple. I'll start with Coach Mike Brandstetter. He wanted to know if the Cubs are going to win the NL Central. The Cubs are going to win the NL Central. I know this is an LSU podcast or whatever. If the Cubs, can get some of their pitchers back, and I mean, they've got 9 or 10 pitchers on the IL right now. If the Cubs can get Daniel Palencia and a few other pitchers back, the Cubs should be able to win the NL Central. Justin Roll asked about LSU's running backs room and Dylan Jones and Harlem Berry being a 1-2 punch, and what my thoughts were on that. And I agree. I agree with that sentiment. I think Dylan Jones, the Wisconsin transfer, has probably really taken the reins as sort of the number one back in terms of maybe goal line work and maybe, short yardage work and just, being a little bit more of a bruiser. But I mean, they're going to have an exceptional role for Harlem Berry. They're going to throw him the ball. They're going to get him the ball in space. I still think there's room for Caden Durham, to carve out a little bit of a niche. I don't think he's going to, touch the ball 10 times a game, but he's another guy. I think they can get him the ball in space, and I really like LSU's running backs room. Even a guy like Stacey Gage, uh, transfer from Central Florida, even he flashed a little bit in spots. So I think they've got some depth. I think they've got some diversity. But yeah, Dylan Jones and Harlem Berry, uh, for sure. Justin also asked, "What is my prediction for the record for LSU's last 9 SEC games?" And look, I know LSU's lost 9 SEC games in a row, and I know the underlying thought on the season is that it's bleak and it's over, and for the most part it is. But LSU's offense has looked a lot better since they've inserted some of these freshmen. The pitching just really let them down in a tough environment in Starkville, particularly the relief pitching. I think LSU can win 2 out of 3 this weekend, and I think LSU can win a game against Georgia, and I think they can win a game or 2 against Florida. It wouldn't shock me if LSU went 5-4 on the way out, finish 11-19, and then I think we're lamenting the first game against Vanderbilt. We're lamenting the ninth inning Friday afternoon against Mississippi State, right? We're just lamenting 1 or 2 games. I think if LSU could go 5-4 on the way out, we're just lamenting 1 or 2 games away from LSU still being in the NCAA tournament. If they went 5-4 on the way out, they'd probably still need to win the SEC tournament. But with the way the format is now, LSU, if they played on that Tuesday and won a game, and maybe played again on Wednesday and somehow won a game, I mean, the bubble is pretty soft in the world of college baseball right now. I mean, I don't think LSU's going to the NCAA tournament. I don't think LSU's winning any games in Hoover. But if they did, I mean, we might be able to get into a Thursday or Friday situation where LSU might just be on the bubble. But to answer the question, I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna say 5-4 on the way out. Clint Bonacorso asked, in the midst of this terrible baseball season, what positives can I take away from this? What is the positive outlook? And I think that there are a couple of things I want to talk about there. One is, even though it's not the position that LSU baseball wants to be in, even though it's not the position that LSU baseball has maybe ever been in the last 40 or so years, the fact that the injuries happened when they did, and the fact that the season took the turn when it did, allowed for some of LSU's younger players to play. And I think by all measure, you would be encouraged by Omar Cerna. You would be encouraged by Mason Braun. Obviously, Cade Aaron Beatty has had a really nice offensive season. I think Jack Ruckert has gotten a little bit better since he's been playing every day. You can see a little bit of the traits in William Patrick, right? He's just not a guy that's played a lot of baseball. He was a multi-sport player in high school, and there's some things obviously that he needs to work on. Is there a productive player somewhere in there for Daniel Harden? Marcos Paz, Reagan Ricken. I don't think the pitching has been as encouraging. Although Paz, I think, you can see the stuff and you can see the makeup. But I think the hitters and particularly guys like Braun, Cerna, Aaron Beatty, to a little bit of a lesser degree Ruckert, I think you are building the sort of foundation for what next year's team could potentially look like. I mean, look, Omar Cerna, he looks like an all-conference player, possibly an all-American player. And again, I wonder if he takes the Jared Jones path. I wonder do you take catcher off his plate in the offseason and maybe try to make him a first baseman or a DH? Or do they just let him continue to catch? I think Omar Cerna and Kate Beatty have to get much, much better defensively for you to feel comfortable about that part of it. But certainly offensively, they've just been a tremendous bright spot. And the other thing that I feel good about is when your season ends earlier than it should and earlier than you want it to, you do have the opportunity to play the portal right away. You do have the opportunity to recruit right away. You know, you have seen that Texas A&M played the portal hard last year. Georgia lost in the regional round. They played the portal hard, right? It's hard to recruit, not impossible, but it's hard to recruit during the super regionals in Omaha, making a run, right? Jay Johnson's telling stories. He's walking around the field in Omaha, you know, making phone calls, trying to secure transfers. And so it just makes it a little bit harder. LSU is going to have their full attention, hopefully a lot more money to spend. And I think LSU will be shopping in a much higher end on the transfer portal next year. Quick note on LSU softball. They play today at 4 o'clock. It's moved up from 6 o'clock due to weather. LSU softball trying to secure a top 16 seed and possibly host a regional. They are playing Auburn this weekend at Tiger Park. So we will be back tomorrow to preview LSU in South Carolina. Obviously, this is a winnable series for LSU, and certainly it's maybe the last one where LSU has a chance to take 2 out of 3, or possibly even all 3. If LSU could do that, we could really talk about maybe a path back to some sort of bubble status. So we'll be back to talk about it all tomorrow. As always, be good to one another. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions. Please, if you would be so kind as to subscribe on YouTube, it would really help me out. And as always, be good to one another. Always boot up, and always, always, always go Tigers.